Welcome to Carmen Hub Radio, your 24-hour destination for music, talk, and stories that unite the world. From the rhythm of Mediterranean coastlines to the pulse of global city streets, we bring you voices, beats, and conversations that celebrate every culture. Here the world connects through sound. Classic and modern, east and west, tradition and innovation. Whether you're tuning in for soulful world music, vibrant DJ mixes, or thought-provoking cultural talks, Carmen Hub Radio keeps your mind inspired and your heart moving. Turn up the volume. Open your world. Live the sound of connection. Carmen Hub Radio, the voice of global culture.
Hi everyone, welcome to Carmen Hub Radio Talk today. Poetry often gets dismissed as something dusty and irrelevant, but here's something wild. Robert Frost's poem, "The Road Not Taken," has been quoted over 300,000 times on social media in the last year alone, showing how his words still influence how we think about life's choices.
It's fascinating how his work keeps resonating with new generations. What do you think makes his poetry so enduring when other writers from his era have faded into obscurity?
Well, I think it's his unique ability to take everyday moments, like watching snow fall or fixing an old stone wall, and transform them into these profound reflections on the human condition. He wrote about universal experiences in a way that feels both simple and deeply meaningful.
You know what's interesting about that? Even though his poems seem straightforward, they often contain these layers of irony and complexity that people miss. Like how "The Road Not Taken" isn't actually celebrating individualism. It's more about how we create stories about our choices after the fact.
Exactly right. And speaking of surprising details, here's something most people don't know. Frost actually spent years as a struggling farmer in New Hampshire before finding success as a poet. He was 38 years old when he moved to England in 1912, where he finally got his big break.
Oh, that's such a crucial part of his story. Those years of physical labor gave his poetry this authentic connection to rural life and work. You can really feel it in poems like "After Apple Picking."
And you know what's fascinating? While other modernist poets like Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot were writing these deliberately difficult experimental works, Frost developed what he called the sound of sense, this revolutionary idea that the meaning of words is carried in their sound.
That's exactly what made him special.
Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though he will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near between the woods and...
He could be innovative while still remaining accessible. His poems sound like natural speech, but they're actually incredibly carefully crafted.
Well, here's something that really shows his impact. He won 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry, and get this, he became the first poet to read at a presidential inauguration when he recited The Gift outright at Kennedy's ceremony in 1961.
Oh, right. Wasn't that the time when he couldn't read the new poem he'd written because of the sun's glare? So he recited the other one from memory? At 86 years old.
That's the one. And speaking of his later years, he remained incredibly active in public life well into his 80s. He even traveled to the Soviet Union as a cultural ambassador during the Cold War, showing how poetry could bridge political divides.
You know what I find really compelling about his work? The way he balanced beauty with darkness. Like in "Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening." It's this gorgeous scene, but there's this underlying tension about mortality and obligation.
Absolutely right. And that's actually a perfect example of how he worked. He once said that poetry should begin in delight and end in wisdom. His poems often start with these simple observations, but lead us to these deeper truths about human nature.
Well, that reminds me of mending wall. On the surface, it's just about fixing a stone wall with a neighbor, but it becomes this profound exploration of boundaries and relationships in society.
And here's what's really remarkable about his influence. His poems are still taught in virtually every American high school, and studies show that his work is among the most frequently memorized and recited poetry in the English language.
So what do you think makes his work so relevant today, even in our digital age?
Well, I think it's because he understood something fundamental about human nature, that beneath all our technological and social changes, we're still trying to make sense of our choices, our relationships, our place in the natural world. His poems give us tools to think about these eternal questions.
That's such a good point. And he managed to do it without being pretentious or obscure. He made poetry accessible without dumbing it down.
You know, looking toward the future, I think Frost's work will become even more relevant as we grapple with questions about our relationship with nature, our sense of community, and how we make meaningful choices in an increasingly complex world.
And his ability to find profound meaning in simple moments might be exactly what we need in our fast-paced, often disconnected modern lives.
Well, I think that's really what it comes down to. Frost showed us that the biggest truths can often be found in the smallest moments if we just take the time to look closely enough.
Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though he will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep.
Welcome to Carmen Hub Radio, your 24-hour destination for music, talk, and stories that unite the world. From the rhythm of Mediterranean coastlines to the pulse of global city streets, we bring you voices, beats, and conversations that celebrate every culture.
Within the circuit of this plodding life, there enter moments of an azure hue. Untarnished fair as is the violet, or an enemy when the spring stew them. By some meandering rivulet which make the best philosophy untrue that aims but to console man for his grievances. I have remembered when the winter came, high in my chamber in the frosty nights, when in the still light of the cheerful moon, on the every twig and rail and jutting spout, the icy spears were adding to their length against the arrows of the coming sun. How in the shimmering noon of winter past, some unrecorded beam slanted across the upland pastures, where the Johnwort grew or heard amid the verdure of my mind. The bees' long smothered hum on the blue flag loitering amidst the mead or busy rill, which now through all its course stands still and dumb, its own memorial purling at its play, along the slopes and through the meadows next, until its youthful sound was hushed at last in the staid current of the lowland stream, or seen the furrows shine but late upturn. And where the field fare followed in the rear, when all the fields around lay bound and hoar beneath the thick integument of snow, so by God's cheap economy made rich to go upon my winter's task again.